Good evening. It might seem like over a century ago when the West Indies, as a cricket team, practically dealt convincingly with all that came before them. For roughly 15 years, the West Indies had never lost a series. Contrast that with what's happening now. They can hardly win a single match. In fact, it may have gone unnoticed that the West Indies is playing in Dubai and we haven't won a single game. We'll discuss the depth to which cricket has sunk over the past several years and ask the question whether the state of cricket on the field has anything to do with the administration of cricket off the field. To discuss the trials of cricket administration in the Caribbean are Dr. Troy Thomas, President of Transparency Institute Guyana Inc., Mr. Malcolm Peters, Mr. Raymond Barton, and Mr. Claude Raphael, the indefatigable columnist, commentator, and cricket enthusiast. Gentlemen, welcome to Plain Talk.
Thank you.
Just for the benefit of viewers, let me say that Dr. Troy Thomas, whose cricketing ability I can't attest to, is here as President of Transparency Institute because the Institute has in fact been asked by former West Indian wicketkeeper Mr. Murray to try to find ways to resolve the impasse that has been taking place in the administration of cricket in Guyana. The gentlemen to his left are all out in the cold, and I think they have met with the Transparency Institute, explained the circumstances, indicated that they're willing to meet with the other side in what is clearly a visceral battle. And I'll leave it now to Dr. Troy Thomas to tell me how far Transparency Institute has got with that effort, and then I'll bring in the gentleman from the cricket administration. Troy?
Yeah, well, TIGI has been was contacted about the matter as you indicated, and we were able to hold a discussion. I think on 2 occasions with the gentleman you referred to as being out in the cold, and some effort was made to reach out to the other side to get them to come to the table, to give us an overview or some insight into what is going on so that we ourselves get a better handle on the situation. That attempt was unsuccessful, and it's still not a success so far.
Well, I think I can fill in that gap because let me disclose that I myself am a director of Transparency Institute, and I did meet with these gentlemen in that capacity. I had spoken with the president of the Guyana Cricket Board of Control, Mr. Drew Bahadur, and he had indicated his willingness to meet with Transparency Institute, and then he later called me to say that his executive overruled him and indicated that there would be no meeting with Transparency Institute. So just to fill in that blank. Gentlemen, tell us the trials of cricket administration.
Well, Mr. Ram,
And maybe Claude, do you see a link between what's happening in the administration and the boardroom and what's happening on the cricket field?
Definitely, Mr. Ram. First of all, I must say thanks for having us this evening. I think we're very happy to be here with you so we can once again bring the viewers up to date on what really is happening with the cricket and why cricket in not only Guyana but in the Caribbean is suffering as it is. We could safely say that cricket in Guyana, the administration of cricket in Guyana is a microcosm of what's happening in the Caribbean, in West Indies cricket. You can see the similarities, strong similarities in terms of the manner in which cricket is being administered, both in Guyana and the Caribbean. And as a consequence, you can recognize the problems we're having with cricket in both areas. The thing is that many luminaries, all this highest thinking officials in the Caribbean has recognized that we've got an abundance of talent in the Caribbean and also in each individual country. But for some reason we can't manage to put things together. And they've recognized that the problem is the administration of cricket. Whether people want to accept it or not, we find that persons who have not got the requisite experience and exposure in administering cricket, dealing with the youngsters from the earliest age and bringing them through, transitioning them from national to international cricket, that they have been, fortunately or unfortunately, in charge of cricket. And as a consequence, they have been unable to, as I said, make the transition.
Claude, are you saying that if you are a competent administrator without any experience in cricket, that you can't be a good administrator?
Well, I'll say
in the game of cricket?
In terms of the technical aspect of it, yes, I'll say that's so. But arguably, a cricket board comprises of a variety of expertise.
Yes.
And as a consequence, if you put them together, you can get the best out of it. The problem is that we do not have the mix that we would really like to see within the cricket board.
You're talking about what's happening now?
Yes, the
Well, maybe I can ask one of the gentlemen to tell us what in fact is happening now with the administration of Guyana, of cricket at the national level.
Okay, well, let me just start from the bottom and then reach to the top. I'm the Vice President of the East Coast Cricket Board. But what we have now on the East Coast Cricket Board, those that runs Guyana cricket as it is now, they form a parallel body, challenging the legality of the East Coast Cricket Board. In other words, if you were to check the ICC constitution, it states clearly, if a body is elected, yes, if they're elected to run cricket in a particular area, check for instance like the East Coast Cricket Board, we were democratically elected in 2014. But what you find that these guys are doing now, these guys now form a parallel body. And they're running cricket on the East Coast, even though the cricket are what you call disapproved cricket, that is enshrined in the ICC constitution. So the legitimate clubs, the persons that are playing for East Coast Cricket Board, they will not be selected in any East Coast team or to represent Guyana simply because the legitimate body, the illegal body, is picking their own teams, yes? And when you pick your own teams, away from the team that you're supposed to pick, you would never get the right set of persons. They're doing that merely because they want to break up East Coast cricket, yes? Because they're thinking elections to them, and if they get a parallel body to run cricket on the East Coast, yes, they will get that body to vote for them. And you see, when you start on that footing, it's highly likely that you will ever get it right because you start wrong. So you can never get it right to the top.
Mr. Peters, give us the perspective from Berbice.
From the Berbice angle, this thing has started from 2009 elections. Or in the same year, you had the Demerara board elections. Demerara had a problem. So the Berbice board was asking the Guyana board to settle the Demerara board problem and to have a forensic audit then you can call elections, the AGM and elections. And the Guyana board refused. They went ahead, hold the elections without a quorum. The quorum should be the 3 county boards. And
But if you don't have a quorum, you can't have a proper
well,
meeting.
that's the trouble. The 3 county boards was made up of 14 portions, but 14 of 2 boards to make up a quorum. And they did not adhere to that. They went ahead with the executive board having 10 persons and 1 from Borbies sat in there. So they had 11. And they had a few people from Demerara board that sat there who were not authorized to represent Demerara because Demerara matter was in court. So from that it stemmed, and
That's in 2009,
2009.
7 years ago.
Yeah, and from that we keep going on, trying to get this thing corrected. No way. Now we keep writing letters. We wrote to the West Indies Board, the ICC, and we did a dossier. I think we gave you a copy of that. And all that we sent, the ICC right off. I understand the ICC asked the West Indies Board to settle the matter. The West Indies Board did nothing, let's talk. West Indies Board never tried to settle the matter. Mr. Hunt came in and he met with the Minister of Sports then.
That's
And
the
he
former
left.
President Julian
Yes,
Hunt.
yes, and he left without questioning the party's concern. And that is how it keep going on and on. So every time you to have, well, I must say, the government set up an interim body. The government then, at least they try.
This
That's
is
it.
the previous administration.
Previous administration. They set up an interim body, and that body took statements throughout the country, the Kukulante, Essequibo, Linden, Borbies, and came up with a report to the minister. The government then set up a parliamentary committee, we call it the select committee, to look into. They also took statements from around and came up. There's a bill that has passed, that has assented to, and still we can't get the cricket fixed because the body that is there now took the Minister of Sports to court and the Attorney General, and that stalled the thing. Then subsequently they filed another injunction stopping all meetings, stopping the minister from calling, setting a date for the meeting, so the ombudsman cannot work. So those are the problems.
You see,
Yeah.
Mr. Ram, the thing is that the initial decision to have an interim committee was based on a recommendation by the Chief Justice Ian Chang, who had ruled that the
This was in a case.
Yeah.
That reached the High Court.
Angela Hanif case. Borbies had filed an injunction after there was no quorum for that election we
Yes.
were talking about. And in his ruling, Mr. Chang had said that all the bodies were legal non-entities, and as a consequence, they can't sue, they can't be sued. So he recommended in his ruling that the government then set up this interim management committee as an interim relief.
Mm-hmm.
And in the long-term remedy, for a long-term remedy, you should have legislation, which caused the parliamentary select committee that Malcolm was talking about to be set up based upon, as he quite rightly said, the whole widespread countrywide consultation process, where every man and his brother came and made contributions, and they arrived at a bill. But that bill, funny enough, was challenged by this body even before it was passed in the parliament. On the day that it was being read, they filed an injunction, but that was thrown out. I think the speakers threw it out. And immediately after that bill was passed and sent it to the challenger, the same body here, this body that is running the cricket now, this illegal body. So they challenged the bill, and with the obvious intention of staying in control illegally. They challenged the bill, and that challenge was met. We have I have all the documents here. The bill was met, was submitted. They had all the submissions in front of Chief Justice Chang once again, and he had ruled. After all the submissions were made, he had reserved the date for the ruling.
Yes.
And when that date was met, instead of a ruling, we got an injunction saying there should be no more elections, and that the matter should go normal course. So we have had no elections since 2009, no legal elections. Everybody running the cricket as a feel like, picking their friends, picking their family, and that sort of thing.
I don't know if it's a fair or a cynical statement, but perhaps the decline in Guyana's cricket probably coincided with that same type of situation. Roy, tell me, why is Transparency Institute interested, other than the fact that it was approached by Mr. Derek Murray, who is himself he has advised and he worked with the ICC on the question of governance of cricket. Why is Transparency Institute in this matter, involved in this matter? Where do you see, because you're a anti-corruption body, where do you what's the nexus, what's the link, what's the relationship?
On the one hand, I mean, cricket means something to us all in the Caribbean, in Guyana. And I wouldn't boast about my own abilities.
I wasn't. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't questioning it. I just said I didn't know about
regarding cricket, but I did play for a bit. I was never intended to seriously play cricket as a career. But the worrisome thing about this situation is this very fact that you should have elections where the cricketing fraternity, all of those involved, get an opportunity to select who would be the leaders, and that has not been happening.
That's right.
That is worrisome because that can lead to certain things. But we can speculate about them. We don't have the evidence of it. The gentlemen here they're saying certain things about picking your favorite, picking your friends, and so forth, which can happen. But cricket is a serious thing for a lot of people, a lot of young people. It's a livelihood. And if we're not governing it in a transparent manner, if some mechanisms are not being activated to ensure certain things go the way that they should go, then we worry about accountability. We worry about the potential for people to be excluded when they should legitimately be in. And for that reason, it would be good to have the other side of the table as well, so that when we're talking about these issues, we get the other perspective.
Well, is the arrogance of people who are in power, whether they're sports administrators, and we always hear complaints about the Guyana Olympic Association. You never hear about transparency, disclosure. You never hear about term limits. There's some. I've heard other stories about cricket, because you can say I'm taking a team to Canada, and you get visas for persons who may know nothing, who's probably worse than I am at the game of cricket. So the potential for corruption is probably much more significant than appears just on the surface.
Not only corruption too, but there's blatant marginalization and discrimination. Now, we've got a situation there on the East Coast, right, where, because we're not a favorite to these people who call themselves the Guyana Cricket Board, there's discrimination, marginalization, because look what they did the other day. They had some gears to share out, and what they did, all of the Indian clubs, and I could say that because I know that, Ogle, predominantly Ogle, Better Hope, Luzignan, Enterprise, Enmore, Freyfield, Strathavons.
So you're saying there was a deliberate
attempt, and look, I thought when Cameron was here,
was representation made on that?
The thing is right. What they would do, what used to happen before, they would say, look, if you need some gears, you write. And then we would, but in this case, nobody writes. They just start sharing out these gears. Look, and here's what happened now, Chris. They got clubs like Pleasance, Buxton, Golden Grove, Anns Grove, Perseverance, Calcutta. Those clubs are predominantly black clubs. Not one get gears from them. Not only that too.
I want to be very careful because we don't want to make anything of an. Is that correct?
Well, he's in
I'm the
Yes,
Vice President of the
yeah,
East
I'm
Coast
asking
Cricket
you.
Board,
Yeah.
Mr. Ram. I'm
Yeah,
the
we
Vice
heard
President
that.
of the East
Yeah,
Coast
we
Cricket
heard
Board.
it, yeah.
And I could tell you
We heard
because
from him.
But
persons.
And
there's
from
an
the
Ethics
President of
Relation
the
Commission.
East
Have you taken that matter up at that level?
No, well, now you're giving me a little food for thought now.
Because that's
Maybe,
certainly
right. Because this is exactly what they did.
It was reported to the
You know,
president of the West
look,
Indies Board when he was
right, when
That very-
Mr. Cram was here, I raised the issue in front of Mr. Cram. The president of the Guyana Cricket Board was here, were there. I raised the issue with him also. But he said, I don't know. But I said, I saw you in the papers giving gears.
Well, I think sometimes what happens is that, and I'm not defending any action, what people do is it's like Santa Claus handing out gifts, hoping to get praise and support
No
in
votes.
return,
Yeah,
and
Chris.
votes.
But you see, in doing that, it's the same thing they're doing when picking the teams. Because look, I managed several East Coast teams with success. And I had players as far as perseverance because they play in East Coast competition and they were picked based on their performance. Yes,
That's how it's supposed to be. isn't
that's
it?
how it's supposed to be. But I tell you, Chris, it's not that. You go there and you look at the East Coast team.
But tell me something. You said, I think, Mr. Peters, you said that or maybe it's you, Malcolm, Raymond, that the previous government had shown Minister Anthony had shown some interest in having this matter resolved. What
That's right.
has this government?
But that's
done?
the trouble. They have done nothing so far since they got into power. They have done nothing.
Have you made
We
representations?
tried to get to the ministers. It's not easy. We made the appointment. We wrote the president also. Mr. Raffel and Mr. Harper was able to meet the
Has the
president.
president responded to you?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
president said he was going to look into it. We met with the president in June, and he said he would look look into it. But the irony of the whole thing is that having
No,
got
let's take with this thing. The
No,
president said he was going to look into
Look
it. What
into
has he
it.
done?
Nothing
Well, I
so
don't
far.
nothing
Yeah,
else.
it's not. People must back up.
Nothing so
You
far.
have the power. You have the authority. You have the duty. Cricket is our national sport. It's probably the most widely participated sport in Guyana.
That's right.
Well, it's one of the greatest unification processes in the Caribbean.
Though let me say, I want to apologize. I just had a note that we're complaining about the men. What about the women? And gentlemen, I'm going to put that to you. What about women's cricket? How is
Yeah,
the
but-
and I'm not. We're going to get
yeah.
back to men's cricket. How is the administration of women's cricket in
Very,
Guyana?
very poor.
Poor. There's
Very,
no
And
competitive
again, who's responsible
domestic
for
Guyana
competition. The
Cricket
same
Board.
Guyana Cricket Board. There's no competitive cricket for women domestic competition.
Nothing has been
No,
organized locally.
The
Nothing.
three women that are selected over the years from Guyana all come from Borbis. All
And they
from
were
Borbis.
selected 10 years
And
ago.
you
Almost.
have women where I've known that in Demerara and the Sikibu that are good,
But
but
since-
because of the system.
Since 2009, when I
Mhm.
was chairman of the selection panel and I was responsible for women's cricket, that's the last they've had any local tournaments.
Yeah.
No.
You see, so the women are suffering terrible. I don't know how they're winning matches, honestly, because as I understand, in the Caribbean it's the same thing.
So
You're
we're
not
not getting
placing
any
emphasis
more
on women.
females into the West Indies team, principally because we're not organizing
They're not
domestic
organizing,
tournaments,
yeah.
so we could get more women
Yeah.
exposed.
Well, you don't have much in terms of the men either.
Well,
How many
Well,
Guyanese
that's-
are out there
that's
with
a
the West
nice
Indies
one.
cricket team?
No,
Not
no.
Bishu?
Bishuli and
Oh yeah,
Johnson.
Bishop
Bishu, well,
Johnson.
in the test matches,
we
Bishu.
got none in the one days and the T20s.
Yeah.
None.
That's
Yeah.
probably unparalleled. It's unprecedented.
Yeah, but nobody
Is it-
seems to care about that.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to
Nobody.
be concerned that that's happening.
Now, you got, according to you gentlemen, this cricket is now a clique.
Yeah, that's right.
Persons not so much with a passion for the game,
That's
but
right.
with an interest
In other
perhaps
things.
in other matters. This matter has been engaging the courts
Yeah,
for some
all-
time.
All the time.
Is it a live issue as far as the court goes? Is there a matter awaiting trial? Is there an appeal
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
of a decision?
Yes, what happened, as I said earlier, the bill was the act was challenged immediately as it came into being after it was assented by the previous president, and the submissions were made, and the Chief Justice, rather than ruling, we were met with an injunction preventing all elections thereafter until the substantive matter was heard. Now that substantive matter, if was the challenge was made to the Attorney General and the Minister of Sport, right? Not to any individual or other cricketing bodies. So
Yes.
so the government has to respond to that, or to defend that rather. But what we find happening is neither the Attorney General nor the Minister of Sport seem inclined to want to defend the matter. It's stuck up in the court there, and it's not moving. Although that Chief Justice ruling of no injunctions at all has been appealed. It was appealed, and it's in the appeal court.
Well, Mr. Raphael, I come back to this issue. Why now? As you know, if you said the Attorney General the action has been against the Attorney General,
And the Minister of Sport, yeah.
those are two persons
Too powerful.
who come under the president.
Yeah.
The president can direct them.
That's right.
But
I'm
this
wondering.
thing is against the Attorney General and the Minister of Sport, so they don't have to wait for the president to direct them.
There is,
No.
Because-
What I mean, I agree with you. They should, but if they do nothing, then somebody should say, well, look, this is unsustainable. You must act in this matter. Surely we can't allow our national sport.
But in the meanwhile, Mr. Ram, what happens is that nothing is happening. An illegal body is left running amok with the cricket. And you know what? The illegal body is also being awarded and rewarded.
Yeah,
like
by the
getting national
government,
awards
yeah,
for running an illegal cricket board. Right? I've never seen that before.
Who was given the national award?
The
Guyana
sports,
Cricket
the
Board,
sports
yeah.
award.
The Guyana Cricket Board was
Yeah,
given an
yeah,
award
right.
for the winning the tournaments back to back. I think the under 15 and the under 19, which the creators did win.
by this administration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was an
Did
illegal body.
this administration do elementary due diligence
And that's the trouble.
on this matter?
Because they give
You
And
know,
they-
the
and they-
buck has to stop someplace.
Yes.
Yeah, but even so,
Yeah.
about 2 weeks, a month or so before the awards were made, the director of sport himself had criticized the very administration, this
Yeah.
illegal cricket board, for not meeting the women cricketers and condemning their administration and making the point that there should be elections soon. But we're
But
not
that's-
having any
That
elections.
sounds almost as dysfunctional as the cricket administration itself. This is
Yeah,
one
yeah,
arm of the
that's
government
right, yeah.
saying that this thing is unlawful, and another higher arm gives them a national honor.
Well, it's the same arm. Because the same arm was handing out the awards. The very same person who said they're illegal was handing out the awards.
You mean is this
The director
Mr.
of
Jones?
sport,
Director
yes.
of Jones?
Yes.
But one other thing I want to bring to your attention to is that Borby's board, the last elections Borby's board had in 2014, they canvassed a lot with some of the clubs around, but they did not get in people. The next thing we had is an injunction after stopping the Bobby's board from operating.
Since anything I'm an
Because,
injunction
yeah.
comes on, come on, right away.
Now, the two
Injunctions,
clubs.
one hears that word so often,
Yeah.
and I'm a lawyer, so I need to be careful. But sometimes you wonder whether they're far too
Like-
liberally
Like the grant
granted.
injunction willy-nilly. The two clubs that filed the injunction, one association, one club, Portmeran, the presidents of those areas fought a position and lose, and then at the end of it, they filed an injunction. So you see here, once they don't get their way, and this is that, and you see that parallel board, they're trying with the upper quarantine now. Upper quarantine is now looking at them, and they're now trying to set up a committee.
Tell me
The upper
something.
quarantine to run.
What is in it for these people?
Well, that's trouble.
Let's be frank about it. They're not cricketers themselves.
What I know now,
They're not. Let me
yeah,
finish my
yeah.
question, please. They're not cricketers themselves. So surely
Yeah.
there's not this great passion for this sport. What is in it for them?
I'll tell you what's
Yeah.
in it for them, Mr. Ram. The fact that this, notwithstanding the fact that there has been no elections for the past 7 or 8 years or thereabouts, by some mechanism that I don't know, these persons who run the cricket board now have been able to transfer all the assets of the cricket into their own names.
Yeah, there's
And
another
they
thing.
have been able to own the Guyana Cricket Board. They call it Guy Crick Inc. and Guy Crick this, and I'll show you this is the company that was formed. And if you look in front, it is Guy Crick Inc. and you look at the back, it's Guyana Cricket Inc. And it's a whole set of confusion now. They are saying that they're saying Mr. Drew Bahadur wrote in the press and said that he had deposited the financial statements in the parliament and here, the Minister of Sports and whatever, and the deeds registry, and when we check, nothing. So I don't know. I don't know what's happened to our cricket. I don't know what's happened to our art in this country. I don't know what happened to decency in this country. I mean, come on, we got at some point in time we got to bite the bullet and put
Yeah,
things in
yeah,
order.
yeah,
We
stop.
cannot continue to run things like this. The youngsters are suffering because we have got the talent, no doubt about it, but they're not being properly developed and not properly nurtured.
What bothers me is you're saying there's this small clique. How this small clique is able to dominate and they dominate the society, violate the laws, and just
But that's-
proceed
With
and
impunity.
perpetuate
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the
perpetuate
thing.
this
They-
kind of illegalities.
This
How
is a
come?
question
Yeah,
we
they
should
don't
be
care
asking
about
the
the law,
Attorney
they don't
General
care
because
about the
on
law.
the East Coast,
They don't care.
we have solved them because I personally have went around and solved them with summons. You know, but they still keep operating, they still keep running this cricket from East Coast Cricket Committee, and the architect of that, the formation of that committee, it is the Secretary of the Guyana Cricket Board, who is also a director of West Indies Cricket Board. So who do we complain to? We can't run to Guyana Cricket Board, we can't run to the West Indies
Is
Cricket
that
Board.
the kind of perks that we're talking about?
I
Is
think-
that why people, for example, what does the Guyana Cricket Board get annually from the West Indian Cricket Board?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I know for sure that they get approximately 640,000 US per year. Now,
640.
yeah, 100,000 for development, and I think 540,000 for the what do you call it? Franchise
Administrative.
cricket that they're running.
Oh yeah, administrative.
Do we have any idea?
Administration.
Now, 640,000, that's a lot of money. Do we have any idea how that money is spent?
And
And
how
who
is it
decides how it should be spent?
I
That's
see
the
in today's
trouble.
paper they say they spent $12 million on the
That's
well,
the
Sean
trouble.
Dever said that in today's paper they spent $12 million on this cricket extravaganza they just had, playing cricket all over the place without it being any proper.
That sounds like an extravaganza indeed.
But the president of the West Indies board said they don't have to account for the money.
Oh yes.
Right, because we were at the
He said
meeting with
that,
him.
yeah.
He said that
And
You
they
don't
don't
have
have
at the
to-
town hall meeting.
So I don't know how this
Well,
board is running.
Isn't what happening in Guyana a reflection of what's
Yeah,
happening
that's right.
Yeah,
in
on
the,
the field.
in the Caribbean.
at the level of
Microcosm of what's
Yeah.
happening now.
West
The
Indian Cricket Board.
president said
Yes,
they don't
yeah,
have to
they don't
account
have
for
to
the
account
money.
for the
That's,
Said that at the town hall meeting.
But how does he mean you don't have to?
I
Everybody
can't
has to
understand-
come for
I
money.
can't understand that.
No, it's theirs. You don't have to come for you. Who you counting to?
I can't understand that.
But you know, that's
Yeah.
in essentially is the whole picture here. And I mean, we are interested in seeing transparency, fair play. We want to see elections being held. We want to see the right people there running the cricket, and we'll all join and support them.
But I think transparency as an organization has certainly tried to reach out
Reach out
to
there, but
you.
they
I think
refuse to.
we've had a number of
They on the
meetings.
side
Yes, we
refuse
did.
to.
We, we have lots of telephone calls.
Yes, yes.
Yes, what we can do now is try to bring some publicity to the whole matter, because if we're not getting the other side to come and discuss, bring some publicity.
Bring some
They-
publicity. Do some
they-
protest. Why
they-
have we lost that capacity to protest? Why have we lost the
think that,
capacity
yeah.
to petition? You talk about controlling East Coast cricket. Get a petition. Do something.
But we did a petition.
We did
That's
a
how we got
petition when
the
they
bill
come on.
passed. We had a 10,000
No,
petition.
no, we're not talking about bill passed. We're talking about now. What are you doing
It's
now?
7
What
years.
have you done now?
we still, that's why we're here. We
Yes,
still
yes, we are.
fighting.
Because
No. You got to do things now. This it's clear that talking has not helped you. You've done a remarkable job of trying
Yes,
to
yes.
keep it in the code, to talk to people.
Yeah.
But how many times do you say the same thing?
That's true.
Another thing they did, the staff, this was at the board level when they took over,
Yeah.
they tell them stay off, there's a crisis on, stay off until it's settled. Some of them have up to 60 years service, never get a cent. They're still off waiting. And in the meantime, they're employing people.
What response have you got from the Minister of Sport? This is the senior minister we're talking.
Oh,
We met him.
Who
He
himself
entertained
was a cricketer of
Yeah.
some accomplishment.
Oh, yes.
he entertained us 3 times, about 3 times.
And he's
met him.
promising also
He
to
made
speak
promises,
with
yeah.
the,
The AG, he said he's
AG
going to
and
talk to the AG.
see how
So
far
when
we
did
can
he
move
make that promise?
The last we
About
had,
8 months
this-
ago.
yeah,
6 months ago.
They
yeah,
meet
about
almost
6
every
months,
week.
I know.
yeah. Yes, the
cabinet?
cabinet academy.
But surely this is
And
something.
we met with the AG as well.
Yes.
We met with the AG quite a few times as well.
Troy, is this something that cabinet should? This is our national sport.
Yeah, I think the administration has a duty to act, and it seems like they have not been discharging that duty. I mean, what has been prevailing cannot continue unless it is condoned.
Well, the failure to act by the government is almost a condemnation of what's taking place.
That's right.
That's
That's
right.
right.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Mr.
That's
Raphael,
right,
you've got to accept that.
Well, I've been
That's
writing.
That's right.
Because what is bothering to us, what is bothering to us, with all the letters that appear in the print media, the Attorney General is steadfast. And I get the impression
Steadfast on what?
not doing anything about it because there's an injunction against you. Yes, and surely you want to get rid of it because if I'm an ordinary man and there's a matter in the court, I got a matter in the court, I want to get rid of it to get on with my life. You understand? So I'm thinking, you're the Attorney General, the injunction is against you.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a direct interest in the matter.
Well, therein lies the problem. Because you see, it's not about him, it's about cricket and the people. That's what's supposed to be first and foremost.
Does the people put them there?
And you look at this, Chris, the clubs that are being marginalized and discriminated against, those are the persons that chow the belly for you. You must know that.
Now, you have had a situation where one leading cricket administrator actually was the victim of asset throwing.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Was that
Very good.
related to cricket?
Of course
Yes,
it
it was
Was it?
cricket
was. Yes,
related.
it was.
It
What makes
was.
you so
And,
certain?
Because he said so, and we were at a meeting where it happened just after a meeting, a Guyana Cricket Board meeting.
At that
Some,
time they were on the board.
Yes, it was.
And the same. The fellow was the assistant treasurer of the board.
And he was very outspoken at meetings about irregularities in financial
Yeah.
matters and all of that. You understand? So it was cricket related.
What's his position now? Is he still involved in?
No,
Well,
he's not
at the
he's
East
Coast
with
level,
us.
at the East
He's,
Coast
yeah,
level.
At the East
At the
Coast
East Coast
and with
level.
Yeah,
us.
because we've all been
But
ostracized from the mainstream.
his advocacy and his
Very strong still, yes. He's very strong still on the principles of, fair play, accountability in cricket. And he likes cricket. He's very serious with his cricket and remembering all the cricket history and this sort of stuff. He's a cricket fanatic.
briefly, why do you think we're doing so poorly, embarrassingly poorly, out there against Pakistan?
Well, we've been doing poorly for a little while now, and it's because the administrators, and that is the administrators at the West Indies Board, and it filters down into the Caribbean because each of the territories in the Caribbean need to be addressed in terms of how they've selected their administrators and the type of cricket, how they're organizing their cricket, so that they can produce the quality of cricketers to compete with the other international cricketers, technologically and technically. That is the problem we're having. People are not cricketers are not being produced beyond a certain level in here because, let's face it, naturally we got perhaps the best cricketers in the world, natural cricketers. We naturally got a flair for the thing. But to take it to the next level is where the problem is. And if you do not have a structured program coming through, if you don't have good technological support, right, you cannot compete with those other players in the international scene. You can't.
It surely must be a big danger if you have a bunch of amateurs pretending to be administrators, incapably managing cricket, producing poor results. Isn't there danger that, look, the whole nation is going to be turned off of cricket? And for you to revive interest in the game will become an uphill task?
Uphill task, definitely.
Because, and the other thing, Chris, their direct interference in the technical aspect of the game cricket. It's direct interference. As you would have noticed, the Phil Simmons incident. Now, I've never seen Phil Simmons' contract, but something tells me there that he had a say in the selection of the West Indies
Yes,
team. I've never seen the contract because, let me tell you, for me, when I was a manager for East Coast, when I was a manager, by the fact for Demerara and a selector, I was sacked forthwith with immediate effect because I could not carry out the wishes of a vice president of the Demerara Cricket Board. He was interfering in the team selection. And as a selector, I'd objected against it. And I was fired with immediate effect. You know what happened, Chris? That Demerara and the 19 team went with the players that he wanted. Well, he had his way because I was fired, even though I was the manager. Yes, unilaterally too. But there was no discussion with the other Demerara executive with regards to what happened to me. He fired me the same afternoon. You know, Demerara and the 19 team went to Escabo and lost for the very first time. Now, the guy is the secretary of Guyana Cricket Board. He's also a director of West Indies Cricket. So you could understand the
Who is this person?
Mr. Anand Sanasi. And it was no secret. Everybody in Demerara, I was fired because he didn't want me to pick the right person. The guy had runs, yes, as against this other guy who had not enough runs like this guy, but just because this other guy came from West Demerara, yes, he wanted the guy to play. But I was managing the Demerara team, and I was also a selector, and I said to him, look, it cannot work, because I've got these guys' scores. And when you telling me it's not reflective here. But I still lost my job. Nobody did nothing about it, apart from Bissoon. They had saying, who at the time was the president for the Demerara Cricket Board. But I'd written him, because he was the country, CC1 to East Coast Cricket Board, which is my board, the Guyana Cricket Board, and then at the Demerara Cricket Board RNA General Meeting, Raj Singh, who received the letter from the Assistant Secretary Treasurer, which is the late Samaru Jailal, but Samaru gave them the letter. But at the meeting, the correspondent, the letter never came up. But I get up and spoke, asked for the letter under any other business. So I was made to talk exactly what I'd written in the letter. And after then the meeting break up. That is Demerara Cricket Board meet after then the meeting broke up.
So
You
we
see,
have. Sorry, go on.
And since then, since this 2009, Borby's board hasn't received a subvention
From the Guyana
Board.
Cricket Board.
And East Coast too.
And Borby's board is running the cricket. Well, except since the injunction, they got all the reports that go to the court, the registry, got lodged at the registry. So that's how we play the cricket.
So
now. So we can't meet as a body.
the Guyana Cricket Board gets money from the West Indian Cricket
Yes,
Board,
that's right.
and it's supposed to be
normally distributed to the
for the
county.
promotion
Yeah,
of
I
cricket.
understand.
In whatever form.
Yeah.
And you're saying Berbice gets no money.
No.
East Coast gets no money.
We get no subvention. Even though we got an academy, we run an academy every year, but we run it this year.
Georgetown gets none too, because
And-
Roger is not with them.
Mm.
Well, this is why I can't understand the comment that they don't need to account for the money. That doesn't make any sense.
He said that at it.
Doesn't make sense.
Dave Cameron said that
Said that.
at the town hall meeting.
You know, whether you like it or not, these are public monies. This is
Of
this is
course,
not a
yeah, of
this is not
course.
some individual's money.
Of course, isn't
But it still baffles me why the government
it? That's our concern.
is so inert
Yeah, that's our concern.
and almost
You know.
recklessly careless.
Yeah, but
That's
you
our
see,
concern.
and there's the problem. And that's why I keep saying again, shouldn't you be clear? Because everybody knows. Look, we went to Christopher Jones' office. The same thing I'm discussing here with you,
Yeah,
Chris.
we talked.
We
had
discussed it
two
with
meetings
Christopher.
with Christopher Jones.
We discussed it with him.
We met
So-
with the sports commission.
Right, right. It's not that they don't know, but I don't understand why it's not of interest to them. Whilst other persons, the youngsters, very talented, marginalized, discriminate, turn into all sorts of things apart from channeling the energy in a way that, they could produce the community and by extension East Coast, Demerara and Guyana.
Troy, as president of Transparency Institute, do you think this is something that Transparency Institute should take up with the director of sport and maybe with the Minister of Education as
Yeah.
a kind of immediate first step?
I think so. The very fact that you have the money involved, the public money involved, and apparently there is no kind of accountability for it. The fact that it has been going on for so long without elections, which again affects accountability.
Yeah, that's
So we
right.
don't have a transparent operation.
Yes.
Some people are getting support, some are not getting support. They seem to be selective about who they give. We were mentioning gears too. Now we're also hearing money. They're
Mhm.
selective about who gets money.
Yeah.
That's worrying, as I mentioned at the beginning. There are some people for whom cricket is really their livelihood, and you can't have a group of people deciding who those people should be. You need a more transparent system that gives everybody an opportunity to compete to get
Yeah.
themselves in there.
Yeah.
And I think if that is not happening, that needs to be corrected immediately. And that is something Transparency Institute can, the actions that you're recommending, we can try to push this matter forward. I think it's something that needs to be a priority. It's been going on for too long in the manner in which it is going on.
What would Berbice like to see
Well,
as a resolution of
we,
this matter?
we
Mr.
would
Peters?
want to see fair, free and fair elections. We would want to see that. We would want to see a forensic audit, because the things that happen, you don't know what is taking place. Not only financial audit, but the whole system
Yes.
need to be audited. We would like to see that, so that our cricket programs can be done so as to bring up our young cricketers. And more, of course, more competition, domestic competition for the women. We need to to have that.
You say
So
Berbice
country.
gets no funding from the Guyana
No
Cricket
funding
Board.
at all.
How does it finance itself?
Corporate Guyana and fundraising activities. And even to that, the fundraising activities that we try to hold, we have an annual thing with the Chamber of Commerce. They block the senior players from taking part.
Who blocked the senior player?
The present
Guyana Cricket
guys
Board.
there
Guyana Cricket
in
Board.
the Guyana Cricket Board, telling them that they must be permitted by them before they can play. So, and if you don't have the popular players like the Bishu and you won't get much people going to such fundraising. Those are the things we're going through. That is what we're
It seems mind-boggling that we tolerate it.
That's the trouble.
What about East Coast?
Well, what East Coast would like to see, I'd like to see the Attorney General, the Minister of Legal Affairs, dealing with this issue immediately, because the thing is, it has a negative effect on the development of cricket on the East Coast. We'd also like to see subventions, yes, getting our subventions, and we also like to run our cricket the way we used to run our cricket, and not no parallel body coming and run cricket on the East Coast willy-nilly, which goes against the ICC constitution, one of the things in the constitution. So for me, if you ask me, I would like to see the Attorney General dealing quickly with this matter, because as far as I'm concerned, once the process is free and fair, it doesn't matter to me who wins.
Well, you're not even
Yeah.
having elections.
Well,
Right,
it,
well,
you see.
that's why I'm calling on
if
the
you
Attorney
have fair,
General, yes, and the Attorney General, look, you definitely, you got it, this thing cannot go on as it is, and you operating like it's normal. No, it's not normal. People are being marginalized and discriminated against. It should be a worry to you. It must be a worry to you.
I think there is an overlooking of how important cricket is.
I
And
think
maybe
so.
maybe it's part of the problem that we have done badly. So nobody even thinks about cricket. Nobody wants to, even if it were broadcast now. You don't even want to look at
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Another,
but cricket-
But you see, it's a
the-
professional game. It's a game that people are making their livelihood of. No? It's not a sport anymore like that.
Well, no,
you know, thing, you
I
know.
don't quite agree with you. I think there are many people who play it as a sport.
Yeah.
Not everybody makes it a profession out of
The
it.
young people, every man, every youth today are trying to, once they go into cricket, they're trying to reach there.
Well, of
They're
course,
trying to
those who
reach
take
there,
cricket,
yeah,
but you
see.
do have your
But
club cricketers
yeah.
who, for them, it's a pastime.
Yes, when you meet a certain age too, it's a pastime
But-
for you. But if you could, Mr. Christopher Ram, if you go around the club competitions and see the guys up to at least age 30, 33, still hoping to make a Guyana side,
Mhm.
they're working towards that. So you can't say that, it's on most of the people, most
No,
of the
but
young
the
people.
point I'm making is not that you don't have those people, but that you have cricket is an important part of communities.
That's right. I agree with that.
Communities together.
Yeah.
And you talk about social cohesion.
Yeah, that
It's
is one
almost as though
aspect
these
of
are words that have come out
bringing
of
the
people's
people
mouths
together. Yeah,
without meaning anything.
yeah. We can use cricket for
You
that.
see,
That's
but
true.
but
But see that it's run properly.
a lot of times I sit back and I look back at the past leaders, the Manley, the Burnham, the Barrow. I think those guys really know what cricket meant to the people in the Caribbean. And I don't think most of these present leaders, apart from Keith Mitchell and maybe Ralph Gonzalez and the late Oinato, I don't think the rest of the Caribbean leaders see cricket as how those guys in the past saw cricket. Because, we wanted to show the colonial masters, look, we're just as equal as you.
But but it's funny you say that, because these are same West Indian leaders who probably ignore many important economic issues and decide let's talk about cricket.
That's true.
So
That's true.
that's a bit power.
But
how
Chris,
serious
talk,
they are,
talk,
you
Chris,
see?
yeah. But
How
what about the
serious.
action, Chris?
Yes.
You would talk about it, but no action. But you see, we want let's talk in a more action.
Well, it's up to and Transparency Institute is taking a lead in it. I would certainly support that as a director of Transparency Institute. But I think it's time, because we cannot allow anybody, any body, any association,
Yeah,
any
yeah.
entity, to believe they could act unlawfully, to believe they could act as though they own these entities, that is private property, and they and their friends must be the beneficiaries.
That's it.
Because if you're talking about governance, if you're talking about transparency, if you're talking about accountability, you have to address all of those matters.
That's right. That's right.
We're struggling, we're really struggling.
I
You know, when I
don't
look at the East Coast, Chris, it reminds me very much of what used to go on in City Hall before the local government election and before the last general election. You know, they do all sorts of things. They come there, they say we forfeit with membership with the Emerald Cricket Board. When there's no Emerald Cricket Board, there's an injunction.
Gentlemen, I want to say this because it's wrapping up time. I'm
Yeah.
getting a signal. In many ways, it's in your hands, the initiative you're prepared to take, the outreach you're prepared to make. You've done it very successfully, I believe, with Transparency Institute. You need to see more people. You need to go and get a firm word from the Director of Sport and the Minister of Education
Yeah,
And the Attorney
I would
General.
agree with you.
and the Attorney
Yes,
General.
I would agree with you.
Because I would like to see, you talk about cricket in the old days, you could pick up your bicycle and you had the Raja Cup, you had the White
Yeah,
Cup, you had
that's
North
right,
Coast Cup,
that's
you had the
right.
Case Cup.
Case of, yeah.
And for that matter, now you don't have inter-county. That could
Yes.
they
They're
do
trying to
away
get
with
rid of them.
inter-county.
So, gentlemen, I think even as the Guyana Cricket Board keeps you out, try to get some cricket going.
We're still working.
You
But
have
we are
a-
still running our cricket
you
board
have,
beats.
you have the passion.
We are
so-
still running it
Come
in board
on.
beats.
It's
The
so-
competition, regular competition.
Um,
But before I go, I want to say, and I do
you have
hope that
15 seconds.
yeah, I do hope the politicians are listening. You who wishes to serve his country must not only have the power to think, but the will to act. That is my Plato.
Sounds very good. Okay,
That's my Plato.
Mr. Raymond Martin
Right.
from the East Coast
Cricket Board.
Demerara Cricket Board, Mr. Malcolm Peters from the
Peter
Barbies
Barbies
Cricket Board, Mr. Troy Thomas from the Transparency Institute. Thank you very much, and in his absence, I'll say thank you to Mr. Claude Raphael as well, who has been a stalwart and a indefatigable advocate for cricket transparency.
And I must say thanks
thank
to
you very much.
Transparency
Thank you,
and to the
Operators and
viewers.
viewers, thank you.
Having us
Good
here.
night, and I'll see you next week.